I also want to bring in this live telecast our managing editor, Gaurav Sawant, on the latest on that. Gaurav, this is a huge reaction that has come in even from India. When India says that these are motivated charges, we are going to dismiss them, but we always believe in the rule of law. Was there, of course, there must be appropriate channels, Gaurav, to express concern if Canada had, but to sack a diplomat, to threaten to snap ties, to say these are credible allegations, to say in the House of Commons is making a political statement, isn't it?
You hit the nail on its head. It's Justin Trudeau's political statement for elections. His party is dependent on Jagmeet Brah's party, Jagmeet Singh's party to win elections. And that's exactly what he's doing. So when you have Khalistan supporters who actually end up being ministers in your government, who end up being very close to the ruling dispensation, and the fact that there is a long history to it, it's there for the world to see. Justin Trudeau literally lives in cuckoo land if he thinks that in today's day and age, in such an interconnected world, he can get away with this, especially with facts out in public domain. The fact that his government has not taken action against Khalistani terrorists, Khalistani sympathizers and Khalistani supporters, the fact that he had to be called out that a referendum with gun-wielding terrorist pictures was to be carried out in a school in Surrey goes on to show how the wokes are actually turning a blind eye to ground realities which will harm them in future. And India, in writing, has raised this with Canada, especially narco-terrorism, human trafficking. The elements that Justin Trudeau and his government support have been involved in this. They've paid a price for it. Nijjar's killing has been it's a gang rivalry, according to what sources had told India Today when Nijjar was killed in June. It just goes on to indicate that there is a massive cover-up in the run-up to elections. And like you and I had discussed, there is a long history to it. Pierre Trudeau had not taken action against the terrorist Talvinder Parmar.
Okay, that's Gaurav Sawant speaking. Gaurav, if you can still hear me, I can understand if he was speaking to about a generic citizen of Canada or someone who had contributed a lot to Canadian society. Hardeep Singh Nijjar was not really born and brought up in Canada, moved to Canada to escape India's law in the 1990s, gets designated as a terrorist by India in 2020. He was the chief of the Khalistan Tiger Force, was clearly vocal, active when it came to anti-India activities of making a separate Khalistan state. There was nothing so appropriate about this individual that that Prime Minister of Canada would actually want to snap ties with India on that, Gaurav.
You're absolutely right. Hardeep Nijjar's entire background, the fact that he entered Canada illegally. He entered Canada illegally, was involved in separatist and terrorist activities, even in Canada. This issue had repeatedly been raised at every level, whether it's a national security advisor, whether it's the Indian mission, whether it's the external affairs minister. It was repeatedly raised with Canada, and yet no action was taken. Canada was warned of activities of such elements and the detrimental effect on India. Secessionist movement in a democratic country which claims to be a friendly country, and yet Justin Trudeau's government took no action. And ultimately, this is escalating a situation so that, he wins elections in Canada. It just goes on to show desperate times ahead as far as Justin Trudeau government is concerned. And that's exactly why India continues to adopt an India first line on this. All facts will be out in public domain, which would be hugely embarrassing for Canada, given the long history of Canada's support to Khalistan terrorism.
Gaurav, before I let you go, so my final question would be, now that India has reacted, should we say this will end here, or is this just the beginning between India and Canada relationship?
In the run-up to elections in Canada, this will only escalate because Justin Trudeau has painted himself in a corner. Given the fact that he's painted himself in a corner, he will have to put out whatever evidence they claim to have out in public domain. And then it will be scrutinized legally, it will be scrutinized diplomatically, and all evidence. Again, like the long history of Canada's support to terror, all of that will be out in public domain, and in the end, Canada will not come out smelling of roses, and this would have a major impact on the relationship between the two countries. Again, it would depend on who comes back to power after elections in Canada.
Thank you so much, Gaurav Sawant, the managing editor, with the details and updating us about the information coming in. Thanks so much, Gaurav, for now.